The Studleys. The Studleys are on the show. What's going what's going on, you guys?
What's up, my man? We're feeling good.
Good to be here.
That's funny. The Studleys. Great. Now we have something to live up to now.
We're doing good. Glad to be with you. Thanks for having us on.
Well, this is a big topic. This is a big topic for Dad Edge, marriage, all that good stuff. Your name is almost as cool as mine. Larry. I believe, Seth, you had an Uncle Larry, right?
That's right. Yeah. Uncle Larry, Harley riding, kind of drinking dude. And,
right.
So Larry was scary.
Scary. Yeah. Scary Larry. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
As we open up, do you guys want to hear kind of a funny story about my name?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Melanie, you'll really appreciate this. So I was a freshman in college. I had my eye on this girl. And of course I was coward to talk to her at the time. And I saw her all over for like a couple months. And then finally I saw her at a party and I had a couple, cups of courage. So I go up to this girl and I'm like, hey, how are you? And she's like, fine. How are you? And I was like, hey, listen, I've seen you all over campus. I've always wanted to meet you. What's your name? And she's like, and she just like lit up. It was so cool. She's like, my name's Heather. She's like, it's funny. She goes, because I've noticed you all around campus and I've always wanted to meet you. I was like, oh, sweet. This is awesome. And she's like, what's your name? And I was like, Larry. And she's like, what? And I was like, oh, it gets worse. It gets way worse. And I was like, Larry. And she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And she's like, pats me on the back. And she's like, I'm sorry. This is not gonna work for me. I was like, why? And she's like, hon, I don't know how to tell you this, but your name is not a bedroom name. And I was like,
oh man.
Yeah, man. I think I went back to my dorm room and like, it was that scene in like Ace Ventura when he's in the shower. He's like, no.
Oh yeah.
So it was like,
you're like, wait a minute. My name's Steve. It's not right. Steve.
Right.
I swear.
I mean, my name's George, which is way better. Okay.
Right. So a funny thing about my last name, which is Studley. So I wrestled for 4 years in high school. And I know that you wrestled too and did some MMA. No, not MMA, but jiu-jitsu stuff, martial arts. And we were in high school and we were at this wrestling tournament, right? And, it's just a bunch of dudes wrestling, right? And nothing like sexy about it. But sometimes girls would come, and watch and stuff. And we were like, yeah, okay, gotta, win and be kind of badass here. And there was a break, it was like in between the tournament and we were sitting at this table, talking to girls and stuff. And they were like, yeah, so what's your name? And I was like, oh, Seth Studley. And she was like, Studley? And she was like, you're so conceited. And then she like that. And I was like, no, it is Studley. So yeah, that was kind of funny about the name. But yeah, I never got ragged for it in high school until like I moved out here. Now that I'm an adult in Seattle area, like it's like, oh, nice last name. I bet that gets the girls. I'm like, what are you talking about?
The best is when our kiddos have their like hoodies for sports, it just says Studley on the back. I mean, It's awesome. You can't go wrong when you're a Studley. That's what I say.
That's very true. Either no one's going to mess with you or everyone's going to mess with you.
Right. Either way, which I'm fine with both. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I love this topic. I love this topic of marriage. And by the way, guys, we're talking to Melanie and Seth Studley, as you've heard. They host the amazing show, Anatomy of Marriage podcast, as well as all kinds of like an arsenal of resources. By the way, killer app you guys have, killer app. We'll have a link for all that good stuff in the show notes. But so tell us, I always like to start with my guest's your childhood. So if each one of you, if you wouldn't mind, just take a moment, just share like, what was your upbringing like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I love context. It makes me it makes me feel like I know the person better. Right. So great question. So I grew up in South Carolina in the nobody knows where Blue Ridge is, right? It's back in the mountains and grew up in the country. We lived on a farm, very country life kind of thing. And parents were together. Childhood was pretty good for the most part. My dad's dad left him when he was young, so he didn't really have a real father figure around. And I believe that my dad tried the best that he could with what he had, right? I believe we all try to do that as people. But still that left some real gaps, in my upbringing. Right. My grandmother, who had a big part in raising me, was very matriarchal, because she had to be. She was a war bride. The men in her life left her, and she had to step it up and literally live. She was dodging bombs.
She came to America. She's from England. She came to America at the age of 20 on a ship.
On a ship, yeah.
In 1940 something.
After the war. So she's super hardcore, get stuff done,
yeah,
right?
She's serious.
So that was my upbringing. I was the first one in my family ever to go to college. Right. To even go to college, to graduate in college. My mom's side is Native American. She grew up with no running water, which was bonkers. And so let's see. And then went to college, started a band. We got signed to a record deal, got a record label, toured the country, and I moved to Seattle. And that's when I met this lady.
That's right. That's when you met me. I grew up outside of Seattle in Maple Valley. My parents are still together, loads of siblings and cousins and all that. I'm the youngest of 5. My dad is Native American. And so my grandmother she passed away a few years ago, but super dark skin, had a teepee, all that jazz, raised on a reservation. So I don't look Native at all. I'm about as white as they come. I'm about as white as this IKEA desk, but I am Native. And we grew up we had sort of a crazy family, lots of crazy family things with older siblings. And so I feel like
stuff going
mental
on.
health. Yeah. So the youngest 3, we just kind of coasted by. We just did right. We did what we could do. But yeah, we are still tight with our family. We live just down the road from them, and lots of good memories from my childhood, but also a lot of traumatic accidents. I had lots of accidents. I lost my spleen, fell off my deck, it exploded into my body. I got in a really terrible car accident the next year. So I've got loads of weird health things that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. You're like the $6 million woman.
Right, right. I'm bionic or something.
Right. So I was way off. So I thought, and by the way, I'm colorblind, very colorblind, but I thought do you have red hair?
I do have red hair. Yeah.
Okay. So I thought you were Irish. The whole Native American thing really threw me off. Seth, has anyone ever told you that you look like somebody famous? I have somebody in mind, but has anyone ever told you?
Who is it? Because we were just talking about this.
So Melanie says, I don't know what the guy's name is, but he was in some of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, It's like the short little dude. I'm like, what? That guy? No, I don't want to be that guy.
He's the bad captain in Pirates of the Caribbean. And he's in Pride and Prejudice, I think.
Barbosa.
Not Barbosa, captain. But that would be so terrible. He's so ugly.
That'd be kind of cool, though. But, yeah.
No, but who do you think he looks like?
Dude, maybe it's the hat and the 5 o'clock shadow and some of your facial features, but you look like a Wahlberg. You look like one of the Wahlbergs.
Oh.
When I was on your show, I was like, dude, he looks like Donnie Wahlberg, or one of the Wahlberg brothers a little bit. Yeah.
I don't want to look like Donnie. I want to look like Mark. Right.
Right. Yeah. Everybody wants to look like Mark. Right.
Yeah. That's what I'm working on. 75
that
hard.
Is too funny.
So, hey, going back, you mentioned, so after Seth, you were talking about your upbringing, and then you said, and then we met. So how did you guys meet?
Yeah, we met. Being in a band, we're not making a lot of money in the early years, so I got a job at Starbucks, right? And she worked at Starbucks, and we literally met as employees at Starbucks.
Yeah,
co-workers, worked together for a year, like friends, kind of flirting around. And then our very first date, it was a random date. And I said, hey, let's don't do this if we're not going to get married. Yeah. And she agreed that literally on our first date, it was 2 hours into the date.
Right. We had not done anything. We had been coworkers for a year, never talked about dating. It never really did anything. And then we went on a date and went, if we're not going to get married, should we really date? And then we went, let's get married. Let's do this. Yeah. So we dated for 5 months, and then 3 months after that, we were engaged for 3 months and we're married. Yeah.
Got married in, when was it? 04?
04. Yeah. And it was crazy because he's Southern, right? So imagine our family of origins culturally are exceptionally different. I'm from Seattle, piercings, who cares? Tattoos, who cares? Color your hair every color of the rainbow, why not? And Seth is from a conservative Bible Belt Southern background. So my goodness gracious, we had lots of conversations about me being a terrible person, basically.
Because of tattoos.
How awful I am because I have tattoos. And at the time, I had a shaved head.
No.
Yes.
She did. I wasn't really digging the shaved head. But
just because why not? Try it once. Why not? Yeah. So YOLO.
Oh, Seth, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at your family's house. All right, guys, check it out. All right.
Yeah, no.
I met the one. She doesn't have any hair. She's full of tattoos, but she's awesome.
Right.
Let's go. Yeah, it was like that. My
it was crazy. It was a lot, but we made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right. So let me this question might go in a different direction now. So what was the thing that attracted you to each other the most? So Melanie, what was so attractive about Seth that you like right off the bat, you're like, I like that about him. And then Seth, back to you.
I say because we were coworkers, we would have to work at like 3 or I guess like 4 a.m. because we opened the Starbucks together. So we would be, you're just dead tired. You go in there and Seth did not matter what day it was. He was always happy and fun. And he was up to like being goofy and being funny. And if work got really hard, he never stressed out. He never yelled at anybody. He was never mean. Like he was such a gentleman. And I mean, saying y'all in Washington State goes a really long way. Or yes, ma'am. Yeah. I mean, like, ooh, child, like say yes, say it again. And then the other thing too, this is the kicker. One time my niece visited the store and she was she was like oh, hey. Hey,
that would be Colton. He's got a cape on.
Oh, well,
why
he
not?
actually has a cape on.
As he should. But it was funny because my niece came to the store and she was really little and he held her. And I was like, well, the deal is done. Like he loves little girls. I'm game. He loves kiddos. Hi.
Hey, bud. What's up?
There you go.
Can't hear us.
Oh, yeah,
no, he can't. Colton, you want to say hi? Nope, he's shy. He's going to run away.
All right.
Show us his cape. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, very cool.
Along the same lines, like Melanie just had this good energy about her, like this energy is real. It's like, if somebody's negative or in a bad mood or whatever, or if they're just like, man, this person is life-giving, I want to hang out with them more kind of thing. Melanie was always like that. And I actually had a list. I came off of like a 5-year relationship with a girl back home. And I was like, let's get intentional about this. And I made a list. So I had like certain things that I wanted.
Shaved head, loads of tattoos.
No, that wasn't on there, but it was cool because you had all the other things.
Right.
But like someone who I knew I would jive with, like, right. Okay, I want, her parents to be married. I want her to come from a semi-stable household, to be college educated, these kind of things. And it wasn't like a snobby thing, but she had all those. And literally I was like, you know what? This is it. There's no reason I shouldn't go for her. And now, we're 16 years later, been through a lot of crap and it's great. So
yeah, man. So when we got connected, if I can only talk, when we got connected, I was like, I'm going to listen to their podcast. I'm going to really kind of get up to speed on everything. And then I went to your about page.
Yeah.
And I thought I stumbled upon a mugshot in some way.
Right.
I was like, what is this? And I'm like, it's our story. And I was like, what is happening here? So I don't want to spoil it, but it's a picture of Seth with a black eye, with no shirt on, with Melanie tattooed on his chest. And I was like, holy cow, what is going on here? And then I read about it, but I would love to hear some more context.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, that shot is pretty
totally looks
gnarly.
Like a shot. It's not. I'll tell you we were doing a workout challenge and I took a picture of him because we were trying to get in shape. And I just so happened to have given him a black eye in the previous days.
Yeah.
So, but it does look like a mugshot, like really.
Yeah. So let's kind of rewind here. So we got married in 2004 and when you were on our show, we talk a lot about family of origin and what we learn and what we don't learn and what we bring into marriage is exactly usually what we learn from our parents or main caregivers, right? And not all of that is going to be good. We're just not taught these things. So on top of all that, I was in graduate school studying to be a licensed marriage and family therapist, right? So I was seeing couples. I was learning about all this stuff, but in the background, things were just blowing up in our own marriage, right? And I had confessed, like a lot of guys, right? Pornography is a big deal, and for women too. It's just, it's more available now than ever before, right? Back in the day, it'd be like, you find your uncles or dads or whatever
Your
somewhere,
Uncle Larry.
right? Or, right, uncle.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I thought that was too funny. I'm sorry. I genuinely apologize for that.
That's too far, Mel.
I got this VHS tape from Uncle Larry's cabinet. So.
Right.
That should be. Oh gosh.
But back in the day, you would find things on the side of the road, just riding bikes, and like, wow, it's everywhere. But anyway, so I knew it wasn't right, and I confessed to Melanie, and it wasn't the most ideal time to do that. We had just had our second child, and
so let me lay out how the confession went down. Mm-hmm. So we had a 1-year-old sleep, so a 15-month-old boy asleep in his crib. I was holding a 2-week-old baby. Mm-hmm. So we have children that are 15 months apart. Both of them are boys. And I'm sitting on the couch after we watched a sermon from our church on the television. Mm-hmm. And Seth is like, he got all shaky and weird. And he's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, okay. And he like got down on his knees and he's like, I'm really sorry, but I've been lying to you and I've been looking at pornography. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, why are you telling me right now, right here, like with a baby? Why aren't we in like a therapist's office? And I mean, the combination of just giving birth, having a 1-year-old and a newborn, mm-hmm. I lost my mind. Mm-hmm. And I own that. I was horrendous to Seth. My goal was, I will look like the victim. He is going to be the bad guy. It's his fault. He was supposed to be getting his master's degree at a Christian university in marriage and family therapy. And look at how terrible he is. I'm the victim. And I just like unleashed every injury, every maladaptive behavior I could think of, like an arsenal on him. And to his credit, he took it and he turned everything around. Mm-hmm. And that's the journey that started our show, was that how do you take this mess and turn it into something positive? Because golly, it was a mess. Yeah.
And that was both of our come to Jesus moment. And mm-hmm. If you listen to, we did, when the podcast first came out, we did a whole season. There's a season 1 going through this stuff. And it was bonkers, Larry. It was like, we wanted to kill ourselves. We mm-hmm. were both depressed. We were in a really bad way, and
constantly fighting.
And there was a lot of physical abuse from her to me.
I was harming him,
which, is sometimes that's hard for a guy to
physical abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean,
I saw the punch, like I saw the black eye. So there was more though.
Yeah. Like there was, so I think it's called atypical domestic violence.
Well, yeah, it's atypical usually, and mostly when people think of DV, and I'm therapy talk right now. Right. When you think of DV, it's always man versus woman kind of thing.
Like a man is harming a woman.
But when a woman does that to a man, it's like, oh, I don't want to be like, a wuss here. Where do I go? But it really sucks, and there's an emotional piece to it. And I don't want like all the dudes to listen like, oh, he's a wuss or whatever, but it's really hard, Mm-hmm. And the more that I got into it, it's like, a lot of dudes have experienced this, with like a crazy ex-girlfriend or something. But this was my wife mm-hmm. who I had 2 kids with, So I was like, okay, I got to get my S together first. Mm-hmm. I can only get my stuff together. I can encourage her, but it's up to her. So she had to own all mm-hmm. of her stuff and work through it. And we went to therapists. I had like accountability people and stuff like that. But like the confession was just the tip of the iceberg, the very teeny tip of the iceberg that just like opened up all this other family boards and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, mm-hmm. we got to get our stuff together or else we're done.
Right.
And we did. And we got really vulnerable and made a whole podcast about it. So
mm-hmm.
yeah. So
man,
that is a long-winded way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
16 years, 2 boys. Right. And how old are
one girl
boys?
now?
We have
one girl.
The boys are 12 and 11. And then our daughter is 8.
Mm-hmm.
And what names did you pick out for these?
The zoo is
children
coming.
Again. What's up, dude?
He's been drinking beer. That's what I'm talking about. Right. So
does he need something?
I haven't drank beer before.
Hang on one second. Yes, Lawson, what do you need, buddy?
I haven't drank beer before.
I know you haven't drank beer before.
But
it's a root beer.
Is it 3 or 5?
3 or 5 what?
Like 5 or 3?
What are you talking about? 3 or 5 what?
O'clock?
Like when you're done? Is that what he's asking?
Oh, the time. It's 4:30.
So it's 4 right now?
30.
Is it almost?
Yes. Why? Yes, you can both go watch a movie.
But
Sarah's so cute.
is it almost 5? Like, is there like a couple minutes left?
There are
Right.
27 minutes before it's 5.
Okay.
Do you need something else?
Yeah. If when it came if when it was 5, can I see when it came back?
Let me think about that. Go ahead and go watch a movie. I'll be out there in a little bit.
No. Play Legos.
You can play Legos, yes. Even better.
Even better.
I love that. If
This is why we call them the 4 drunks, because it's just like, so is it 3 or 5? No, it's 4:30. So it's 5. No, it's 4:30. How much
5.
longer till it gets to be 5?
That is like walking out of if you're
bar?
downtown walking
Yeah.
out of a bar and the dude stumbles out and is like, I don't know.
Right.
But dude, we get it. So
We
no
totally
problem.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, well,
That-
I was saying our kids' names. That's what I was saying.
Yes,
Mhm.
kids' names.
Our oldest son's name is Mariner. Our middle son's name is Tough. And our daughter's name is Hadassah, but she goes by Hattie.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've got some crazy Hadassah.
These are okay.
Yeah.
So you said Marner or Mariner?
Mariner.
Mariner.
Like
Okay,
the
so
Seattle Mariners, but
right.
not.
So got it. Tough, amazing name. How did you guys come up with that name?
Actually, I was so Mariner is it's like a sailor, right?
Mhm.
And so Mariner was our first son's name, and I was like, that's a really like crazy name, but I love it. It's kind of feminine though. And so when I was pregnant, I was like, I want to name this boy something like really manly, like bear, or like I don't know, fire logs. I don't know. And then we were at a party, and someone was like, "Oh man, that's Tough." I was like, oh, Tough
That's
could be
the
a
name.
name.
Yeah.
Tough Studley. Yes, Tough Studley is his name.
Yeah.
And the best part is he's a redhead.
That is, and your daughter, what's her name?
Hattie, Hadassah. is
Hadassah,
her
yeah.
full name,
Hadassah.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that name?
That's Queen Esther in the Bible. Like there's a series of books called The Mark of the Lion that are just really good books. And the main character was Hadassah, but it's based off of Queen Esther in the Bible. And I just thought it was a really cool name.
Yeah.
And then I had a dream about it, and I was like,
That's
done
the name.
deal. That's
There
her
it
name.
is.
And
Yeah.
I always wanted to call her Hattie. So she goes by Hattie.
That is really, really cool. I mean, I would just love to be a fly on the wall when you guys have like family roll call, like you're at an event. You're like,
Right.
Mariner.
Tough Studley, please stand up.
Right.
It's like-
Yeah.
It's pretty cute.
So I love the fact that, just as Dad Edge mission started with absolute, ground level struggle, and sounds like you guys did too as well. And so Seth, I really want to get to this whole thing of, you talk about pornography and marriage and all that. If you're cool with that, I'd like to spend a few minutes on that, because I don't think I've ever met a man that didn't struggle with that to some degree.
Mhm.
And from your point of view, and actually, Melanie, come to think of it, I have never heard a woman's point of view on this, because most of the time we're interviewing men. So I'd love to hear a woman's point of view on this. But why do you think that? I mean, I kind of look at porn as like the easiest drug a guy can get to. Like guys will look at porn before they drink. Guys will look at porn before they do drugs. It's like, and it's incredibly accessible. Like, why is it like that in your experience?
Yeah, I think that we all go through hard stuff, right? Like, and not to the degree of like your wife punches you in the face or your dad leaves or stuff like that. All like, okay, there's some discomfort here. I don't want to feel this discomfort. And that might be hunger or anything or boredom. And those are called, in therapy language, we all have coping mechanisms, right? And coping mechanisms get, it's like an instant transfer of a negative energy or whatever, like unpleasant whatever, to something else. Like, this is weird. I'm going to go over here. Like when you were on our show earlier, you said, sometimes there's a struggle not to just go to your phone and check Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
That's a coping mechanism. It's a this is kind of grindy. I don't like it. Ooh, smooth. Right. And that can be ice cream, pornography, drinking, drugs, workaholism, Facebook, Instagram, anything that gives us instant gratification from what we don't want to feel to what we do want to feel, or sometimes that's just feel nothing, right? So, and because pornography really triggers those oxytocin, you want me to say it again?
No, I had to mute my side because, can you lock that, please? Hey, can you please tell Lawson to keep it down? They need to go back to school.
I know, right?
Oh my God. I'll have my guy edit this out, but like this is like absolute pandemonium in my house right now. My wife is in the shower trying to get ready for her night out, and the kids they're going crazy.
Oh yeah.
That's like such
that's
our
just
life.
a real piece of
Right.
like when we do the things that we do, like create content for the good, this is resistance. We're feeling resistance.
Right.
And you want to go like ream your kids or whatever. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to focus and like kind of breathe back into this. So it's totally cool.
We have the same journey. We literally write letters to our children while we're podcasting. We're like, do not interrupt us. You will lose your switch. Yeah. And we're like smiling.
Get away.
So we get it.
Yeah. So it's totally cool. But pornography and other things is such an instant, easy pathway into oxytocin, all these feel-good.
It's a state change.
It's a state change. All these feel-good chemicals. And sometimes if we do that too much, then what we know about brain neuroscience and neurology is we create these pathways. Mm-hmm. And that's where when we get into the realm of addiction, like, okay, these are well-worn ruts that when this happens, boom, go to porn. Right. When this happens, boom, go to Facebook. Or when this happens, I drink all the time, and then your body adjusts to that. And then there's all this biological response to it that's really difficult to get out for a lot of guys and a lot of women too. Like, one thing that's not talked about is the pornography issue with women too. And it's for the same reasons,
right? It's all the same
just
thing.
To take yourself out of what you're feeling right now, because it's easier.
So talk to me like I'm a total moron. So just talk to me anyway, right? But is this really an issue with women? I mean, maybe I'm just totally naive to this, but are women like really into this?
Yeah. What is that? 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
There's a reason that those movies and books are. I mean, think of. I won't put her on the spot, but even Seth's grandma, she's 94. The woman reads like, what are they? Romance novels.
Like these romance novels where
they sell them in Fred Meyer. They sell them at Kroger, y'all. Like you be getting eggs and there's a man with his chest hairs blowing in the breeze. That's all porn. It's just packaged differently. It looks, and no one's afraid of it. It's not as scary as some lady with things hanging everywhere, but it just looks like a man is rescuing someone. It's all porn. Mm-hmm. And the word pornography, I researched the word. I'm totally like word nerd. And it is anything that is like exciting. It's not really like, it is not images of sex. It's anything that is like arousing. So we use this word that's big and scary. I hope your kids can't hear you. But it's really, a lot of it is more about what it does to your body. So again, it's that idea of a state change. And one of the things that I'm reading the book right now from Stephen Pressfield, it is called The War of Art. And he also wrote Turning Pro and something else. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing because he talks about this, like the resistance and the shadow self and this like sort of the shadow side. And he talks about sex and pornography being the fastest route to get out of that feeling of, I could be like writing a novel, or I feel like I'm supposed to be a musician and I'm not doing that. And I feel this tension and I hate this tension. I'm just going to look at porn. Mm-hmm. I will feel better like that. And so there is this element that we kind of weave these, sort of mechanisms of state change into our lives without realizing that if we walk that path enough, it will become a mega highway. It's a bullet train. Like we have wired our brain to be like, that's the thing I know that changes, feels great. I know how to do it. Here we go. Mm-hmm. And it's everywhere. And
if you think about it, like porn is an issue for women too, because we're kind of hardwired sexually, right? Mm-hmm. Like we feel pleasure in different ways, now we're getting like to the serious biological stuff, right? But, which is, I hope it's okay. But like, we're all made like that. And for some reason it just affects guys more, I guess.
I don't think it does affect guys more.
Maybe
I just think it's more,
well, how about this? It's more geared towards guys, right? It's always for the guys kind of thing. But it is a thing with women too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And that makes a lot of sense. I had somebody else come on the show and talk about porn and how it's basically like you don't want to feel uncomfortable. Right. Like you just don't want to feel uncomfortable. It's like tension or sadness or depression or anxiety or overwhelm. You're like, I just don't want to feel this way right now. So like, that's like the easiest thing that guys will go do just to relieve stress. So Melanie, from a woman's point of view, and I think a lot of guys really view this as, well, it's not hurting anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe I'm actually doing her a favor by not wanting it so much if I go relieve myself. This is selfless. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
That's funny though. I'm like making fun of dudes who like, this is a selfless act. I'm doing it for you. Right. Whatever. Get out of town.
But I think a lot of guys literally like, porn, from what I've heard from other guys and from, just experience in my younger years with porn and all that stuff. The thing that I think most guys will say is like, this isn't hurting anybody. Mm-hmm. And, it's a great way to relieve stress. I don't have to think about whatever it is that I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And we could actually have all the sex that we want in a marriage. Right. And we'll still go to porn. So like, from what I understand, for a guy, it's not about how much sex he's getting or maybe not getting. It's more of like a release valve. Mm-hmm. But for women, some women in my experience are like, oh, it's fine. It's just what guys do. And some are just like, oh no, that's like downright cheating. And then like everything in between. Mm-hmm. So Melanie, with your experience and just women you've interacted with, what is the overall census? Like, where do women stand on this?
Well, there's a very broad spectrum of what people find acceptable in their marriage. And it also does change a lot with women when they have kids. So sometimes the woman will be like, oh yeah, we look at it together. It's no big deal. It's been a part of our marriage forever. And then they have a kid and they're like, what? Wait a second, I actually don't like this. And now I don't know how to tell my husband that I don't want him looking at this. And now, because we change and we should change as we grow. So this is something that does happen to couples. But the way that I used to look at it is very black and white. This is wrong. It's sinful. It's evil. Never do this. Actually, let me back up. This is crazy. We've never talked about this on our show. Ooh. I became a Christian when I was 19. I became sexually active when I was 14. I started dating very, very young. I was having sex with everyone I dated when I was very, very young. I did not care. I looked at porn. I didn't care. It was nothing mattered. I was just being a crazy punk in Seattle, black nails, spiky, everything, whatever. I did whatever I wanted. And then when I became a Christian, I had this, and I had just this crazy moment where I wasn't looking to become a Christian. I'm like, where did this come from? I felt like Nancy Kerrigan, like knees knocked out with the skating thing. I'm like, what is this all about? And it changed literally everything in my life. I lost all my friends because all my friends were into all of that stuff. And now I wasn't. And I'm like, what the heck do I do? So when I got married to Seth, who was a good Christian boy, he was Southern, he was going to a Christian college, and then he looked at porn, like I was furious. It took all of my rage and sort of like made a firenado, and now I'm like coming at you with everything that I felt. Sharknado, firenado. And so it was really weird because in that time of our marriage, I was like, nope, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. Then I changed and developed and became more of a normal adult. Mm-hmm. We met with sex therapists. We had sex therapists on our show. And they're like, some people like this together. Some people, blah, blah, blah. And so you have to be open and flexible to what works with every couple. But here's the caveat there, is that sometimes around sexual issues, sexual conversations, we don't actually say what we feel. We're so uncomfortable saying, I don't like it when you look at other women anymore. I used to, but now that maybe I'm getting older, or maybe I've had 3 children and stuff is not where it used to be. I don't really feel like okay with you looking at a 21-year-old girl. Like that does not jive anymore. We're not comfortable having uncomfortable conversations well. Mm-hmm. And so that's my fear when men say, oh, well, it's just easier. It's just that, or it's whatever. Make sure you're having those uncomfortable conversations to get to the heart of what is actually going on, because things do change and develop over time, and they should. But if we're not having those conversations, we don't know it. The other thing I will say is that good sex is about connection and pleasure. Pornography is mostly about, I can't be turned down. She'll never say no. There's no connection. There's pleasure, but all the other elements are missing. I think men often go to pornography because it does not tell them no. Mm-hmm. Pornography never has a headache. Right? It's never too cold, right? Like those things are a guaranteed win. And I think that's another reason that pornography is so easily turned to so easily, if that makes sense.
Can I say something?
Please. No, I mean that as in like, this is really good. It's no, seriously, Melanie, it's really, really good. I've never, out of 600 episodes, I've never been able to bounce this topic off of husband and wife. So this is really, really cool to get both perspectives on this and just bat it around like any other. By the way, I didn't expect the conversation to go this way.
Right. No.
But I'm glad it did. Yeah.
So I'm a hunter. I hunt deer and elk. We have tons of elk here in Washington, right? And it's a way for me to connect and do stuff, right? And my brother's a hunter too. And a long time ago, we were talking about coyotes, right? And finding coyote trails and this stuff, and he's like, coyotes take the easiest path, right? So they take the well-worn path. Not only coyotes, but deer and elk too. Maybe you got some hunter dads on the show or something, but they're going to know what I'm talking about. And us as people in general are going to always take the path of least resistance, right? And when we get too deep into pornography or alcohol or drugs or anything, we're taking the easiest path to not feel all this uncomfort, what we don't want to feel. And also, we are masking something that needs to be resolved, right? And this is the therapy piece, that I'm coming from. But Sigmund Freud, the great, father of psychoanalysts, talks about unresolved issues always come up in more uglier ways if not resolved, right? So things from our childhood, family of origin, even little stuff that's like, we as guys, we minimize it and go, I'm gonna white knuckle it, I'm gonna get through it, all this stuff. If those things aren't talked about and let out, which guys, we have a really serious chronic problem about not talking about these things with other dudes because we have all these assumptions that we're going to be judged or somebody thinks we're, whatever. And that is absolutely not true. So rather than a pornography problem or alcohol problem, I, as a psychotherapist, look at, wait a minute, what's the thing under the thing under the thing? Because all these are just symptoms, right? It's like, oh, I'm, $100,000 in debt. That's not the problem. The years that it took me to get there, spending freely, not being accountable, that's the problem, right? So that's, when dudes or ladies come in and talk about this stuff, I'm like, okay, we're gonna dive down and talk about these uncomfortable things, because if we don't get them out, they're just gonna blow up somewhere 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Man, this reminds me of the Family Guy episode where Peter's like, let's go drink beer until we can't feel our feelings. Right?
Exactly.
Great impression.
That's how guys relate, right? Like, we don't really get to. So that makes so much sense. So much clarity there. I really want to acknowledge and appreciate you both for calling an audible here and talking about this really tough topic. I didn't expect to go in this direction, but I mean, how cool is it that we don't get the many opportunities to hear Melanie's, a woman's perspective on this. And Seth, I really appreciate, obviously, your, I'm going to butcher this analogy, but I guess psychological analysis of it, of what's actually going on. Like, cause that makes a lot of sense. Like, what's going on underneath all this that you feel that you maybe have to act out in this way, distract yourself from the stress or the discomfort of whatever it is that's ailing you. So if we could switch gears just a little bit, because I obviously this is a marriage show. Marriage is a huge topic for a lot of our guys. What is the most common issue that you guys see in the couples that you coach? And now that maybe you see it pretty darn often, you're like, I see this. I even saw it before they even said it. Right. I even knew it was the problem before they even sat down in front of us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these things, it's a skill set. Navigating the waters of communication and marriage, it's a skill. And what are some of the most common problems, but the simplest solutions that you guys have seen?
Right. Yeah, I would say right off the bat, communication is a huge one. And the thing that I've learned in being married to someone from a very different culture, from a very different family of origin structure than my own, is that a lot of time, and we see this in couples all the time, it's almost like, you remember that game where you used to shoot missiles at each other? It was like a computer game. I don't know, maybe it was like a desktop computer game a long time ago, and you would shoot a missile and like the other side would shoot a missile, and the only goal was to hit the other missile, right? But if you looked at from a different angle, This is what I think of. Two, like a husband and a wife trying to communicate. They're shooting missiles at each other and they're not even on the same latitude. Like they are literally never going to get those missiles to touch in the middle. They never, ever, ever will, because they communicate so differently. He's using a set of language and set of words that she doesn't understand, and she's doing the same exact thing to him. So they're fighting about, like, they could be fighting about two totally different topics. They think it's the same topic, and they think if they keep fighting, they'll solve it. When really they actually don't know what they're fighting about.
Right.
They have no idea. And that's the reason. So in the app, in the Anatomy of Marriage app, we use a therapy. It's called the clearing structure. It's a tool called the clearing structure based on therapeutic concepts that breaks down like what you're actually upset about. What is the real core thing? Because so many couples fight about how they fight. They don't fight about what they want to fight about. They fight about how they fight and how they talk to each other, which is crazy bonkers, and no one gets anywhere.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said communication. I was hoping that we'd be on the same page.
Yes.
I assumed that we were. Communication is one major thing. And then, we'll go into like Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Personal accountability, like
Ownership.
extreme ownership. We get so many emails, just like, a couple of hundred a month, saying, if she would just do this,
he
or
says this, and
if he would only XYZ. And okay, I get it. Somebody might be doing something like dumbass thing that isn't helpful, but who is it up to actually take ownership of your actions? Along the vein of extreme ownership, you got to take care of your own crap. We had Ryan Mickler of Order of Man on the show, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And he was sharing his story of, me and my wife, we were getting separated. We actually did separate. And once that separation sunk in, I lost my wife, I lost my kids. What am I doing? He decided right there and there, okay, I'm going to be the absolute best man and best catch for the next woman if this one doesn't work out. And right there, I heard it in a different way. I was like, oh my gosh, that is one of the most powerful things, because dudes, we got to step up our husband game. It's happiness, ownership is only up to you. And if we're putting all this weight on our wife, we got an email a couple of days ago that said, the guy was like, well, she doesn't support me enough. And how am I supposed to be the best if she is not XYZ? Right. I'm like, no, back up. Yeah. That is absolutely you
got your own two legs. Support yourself. You got your own
responsibility. I understand that women can make it more difficult, but that's their own stuff. But men, you right here and right now have to decide what kind of man you're going to be, what kind of husband you're going to be, what kind of father you're going to be, regardless.
Right.
Like one of the most important things that I think I did in the reparation of our relationship, when, fists were flying and we both wanted to die, was I was like, okay, we need outside help here. We both grew up Christian, and, everybody has their own connection to a higher power, whatever. But that was just our way, right? I said, you know what? I can't do this on my own. So I set prayer alarms for like a year and a half straight. Prayer alarms, once in the morning, once at like 9 a.m., 12 a.m., 3 p.m. 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m., and then one at night. So I was praying for a year straight of like, God.
And he would pray with me.
Please,
like it was like us. He would call me. And
I would call her and pray. And, 33% of the time she'd be like, what?
I literally would answer. I would not even say hello.
Yeah.
I would put the phone to my ear.
So that was me saying, all right, here's the line in the sand. This is what I'm doing. Right. I know it's good. Prayer of to whoever, it's better than what we got here.
Right.
So communication and extreme ownership of how you are acting in a marriage. Yeah. I know that was long-winded, but that's the gist of it.
No, I think that's great. I had a coaching client that I was talking to not too terribly long ago, and obviously names left out. I'll give a situation. We'll call him Ted. And he was really struggling with a relationship with his kids. And I got on this coaching call with him, and I've been blessed with some amazing clients and very coachable clients, right? And he came on and he was like, look, I don't understand why these kids don't have a connection to me. he was very hard nosed. He was very tough and all that. And he's like, I don't understand why they don't have a connection to me. I've done this, this, and this, and this in my life. And I've done that. And I've done this. And not only that, but I did this, this, and this. And this was their reaction when I did this for them. There was like no appreciation. There was no this, no that, no that. Mm-hmm. And then, I've done, and again, without outing this guy, I've done X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And when their friends know that I've done this, they're like, wow, that's incredible. That's awesome. That's this. And my kids don't even care about it. And I looked at this guy and I was like, why are you basing your validation? Why are you basing the connection with your kids on them validating you?
Right.
Why are you putting that on them? Like, that's not your kid's job. Mm-hmm. This guy got pissed. And I was just like, look, man, I was like, your kids, the age that they are, it's age appropriate. I was like, it's age appropriate. You can't put that on them. I was like, number one. Number two, I was like, my boys, like my 12-year-old and 14-year-old, they're into YouTube right now, right? And so they're like, Dad, like, how many downloads do you get on your podcast? And I'll tell them, I was like, we get about 300,000-400,000 downloads a month now. And they're like, man, that's awesome. And I was like, but I don't expect them. But here's the funny part. They're like, how many YouTube followers do you have?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I just started, big miss.
Right.
I just started using my YouTube channel 4 months ago. We have 290 subscribers right now. I was like, I have 290 subscribers. I know you're dude perfect. They have like 100 million, right?
40 million.
Yeah, whatever it is. And so, but it's not like I'm going to depend on their reaction for validation. Right. Like I don't care. I would never put that on them. And the guy actually hung up on me.
Oh, wow.
Disconnected the Zoom call, like never a client again.
Crazy.
Like, but the majority of the coaching call was like, it's them. It's them. Mm-hmm. They do this. They do that. And granted, like there was some things like his kids were kind of treating him like crap without a doubt. Right. And there were some hurtful things, but at the same time, I was like, dude, you can't put this on your kids for validation. Like you need to take ownership of your own actions. And by the way, expectations, you're going to screw relationships up with high expectations. If this person doesn't do X, then this is what I think of them.
Right.
I mean, I think you need to really approach a relationship with appreciation and curiosity.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you were saying that made me about this guy, he was loving his kids maybe based on what he wished he had as a young kid growing up. Like, I wish I had a dirt bike, or I wish I had this and all this stuff. Oh, my kid's going to want a dirt bike. Shouldn't they be so happy? And we do that. You mentioned the love languages before. Oftentimes, me as a husband show Melanie love the way that I want to receive love, like physical touch. I'm just all over. And she's like, what?
Do the dishes. That's what I say.
But I'm like, I'm loving you, right? But we have to first of all, we have to be coachable and then be able to her perspective is going to be different from mine. Let me have some wisdom about it and love her, treat her the way that she wants to be treated rather than just based on my preferences. Same thing with parenting.
The best way that I think of it too is like, I don't think people realize when they become married, especially when they have children, they are now the adult. They're now the grown up. I don't think people think about it that way. And they don't realize like, oh, all those skills that I think are good qualities in people I admire, I can have those right now. I can be patient. It's not going to be easy. I can be dedicated, hardworking, hold my tongue when I'm angry. I can do all of those things, and I should because I'm the adult. Right. And that's really where when we get emails and we get messages every single day, and it's like getting messages from teenagers, but they're adults. And some of them are like in their 50s. And it's like, what, do you hear what you're saying? Like, do you hear what you're saying? You sound like a tween fighting over something with your sibling. Be a grown-up. And it's a hard pill for lots of people to swallow, and they don't want to. So they blame other people or they look at porn, There's lots of ways to avoid these things. But those are like kind of the biggest standout things. If people knew that they are supposed to be the adult now, I wish that they could know that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's good.
I love that. So just to reflect a little bit here, communication is key, right? Maybe seeing things from the other person's perspective is key. What about marriage and parenting? What do you guys see as the biggest? You're both grinning. What do you guys see as the maybe some of the biggest slip ups, but some of the easiest things to solve?
Well, this one goes back to family of origin too, right? Our family is our university of relationships. Dr. Les Parrott talks about that. And I'm going to be a parent how I learned how I was parented, right? And so is Melanie. And then, guess what? We come together. There's going to be some differences there. So you have to make sure, just like we were talking about on our first date, we were really intentional. Like, okay, I have differences, you have differences. How are we going to parent here? And we can't, and we have done this, just walked into something like, I don't know, and then just respond to it.
Right.
But usually that doesn't work. So we have to be on the very same page of, what do we value? What do we value? Maybe that came from both of our family of origins. Maybe it didn't. But what do you and I value?
Right.
Because this is a new family here. It's not our parents. It's not your parents. So we value things like relationship, right? Relationship is key. If we're not in a good relationship with someone, then it's not as fulfilling all around, right? We value like integrity and hard work and discipline in these things and love, right? So, and then we can, get into the weeds on what all of those mean, because we might even have a different interpretation of what integrity
means. We for sure will have a different interpretation.
Or discipline. You go back to that story of, when spanking and stuff like that, like I got whooped. I mean, whooped when I was a kid, right?
He had to go pick the switch that he would get hit with.
Maybe it's a sudden thing. I don't know.
Right.
But she didn't, so my version of discipline is going to be very different from hers. And that's going to cause conflict if we're not on the same page, right? So you have to come on the same page with that.
Right. I think of it as like team building. Like if you remove the romance, the love piece of it, you're building a team. And what people often don't realize is we talk about, the family of origin I grew up in is blah, blah, blah. Well, when you have children, you are creating their family of origin right now in real time. Like there is the things that you're doing today, they're going to look back at in their therapy sessions and say, I just wish my mom wouldn't have called my dad that all the time. Right. And so you have to have an eye on yourself. You've got to hold that mirror up and say, and be really critical in a good criticism, constructive criticism of, is it helpful when I'm sarcastic? I was hugely sarcastic when we got married. And you know what kind of put an end to that? I'm not that I'm totally free of it. Our children grew up, their mouths developed, and then their sarcasm developed. And I was like, gross. This is the worst thing I've ever done. My children sound just like me.
Right.
They're mean. They're rude. They sound just like me.
They got it from you.
So is this a good thing to keep into my family? Is it a good thing to add into my family of origin for my kiddos? No. And so what's crazy is that marriage is sort of how we treat one another is how our kids will treat their spouses. How we treat one another is how our kids will treat their siblings, right? We are literally modeling what their adult behavior is going to look like. So one of the best things that you can do is be a good model. Like nothing else. You don't even need to read a book. Be a good model. Do the thing that you know is healthiest, not the thing that you grew up knowing. If you know that it's healthier not to yell at your kid and cuss at them, then do that.
You got to do some work.
You know what I mean? It takes a lot of really intentional thoughts and focus, but it's absolutely worth it. The payoff is huge.
Man, oh man. Okay. I'm loving this. I like this. I got a question for you. Maybe you've never been asked this, but I'd love to put you guys in a situation here. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. You go to dinner. All right. You sit down at the table and the couple that you're having dinner with is Seth and Melanie 18 years ago. You're going to have a conversation with them of like, oh, wow. We have an opportunity to teach ourselves something here back in the day. Right. So you're sitting down across from each other as a couple. What advice, what heads up, what things would you share with that younger version of you when you were 18?
Great question.
That's crazy. Just like I even pictured it in my mind.
Right.
Like, we're at this restaurant here locally. It would be like this. I would encourage myself or just ask myself what would it look like, young Seth, to slow down, to put that ego aside and be open to other ways of things, because my family of origin is like, oh yeah, a lot of things were black and white, right? And I've learned, well, no, a lot of stuff isn't black and white. And I've gotten into a lot of trouble and also a lot of arguing things that are black and white. So I'd say, hey man, what would it look like if just possible, there was a different way of looking at things? It's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just a different way. How open are you to that? How open are you to a growth mindset? And you see that lady over there, she loves you more than anything. You don't even realize it, right? So I want you to really pay attention to that and respect that. Like, a woman's heart is not anything to mess with, right? It just isn't. Like on a spiritual, emotional, just kind of, world level. Like, think about your own wife's heart, like how you do anything for her, how you love her. That is something that you don't mess with, right? So I didn't go into that mindset as a young married man, but I would encourage myself to think about and look and view and treat her and see her in that way only. Gosh, that's an awesome question.
A really
right?
good question.
I'm just like thinking now, like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown.
Right.
And I even kind of like jazz myself up with my own answer.
That's adorable.
What about you though?
I think for sure the first thing that I would say is like, girl, I hear you. You want to complain about everything, but that complaining is a shadow of the amazing things behind what the complaining is covering up. It's a mask. And behind that, you are so much stronger than you realize. You can do anything. You do love your husband. You do amazing things and can do even more amazing things if you would get out of your way. Stop complaining your way out of growing. Stop complaining your way out of feeling, out of healing. You're complaining your way out of becoming like Wonder Woman. Become Wonder Woman, and that means be healthy, be strong, be balanced. Don't cuss people out. Don't bully people for your way. Don't be a baby and then expect everyone to treat you like a queen. Like I would be really rough on myself because I think that is what I needed. I was babied by everybody. Everybody gave me my way.
Youngest child.
Right. The thing I needed was like a little bit of and tell you can do amazing things if you get out of your way and stop complaining all the time. That's a great question, though.
Excellent question. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're saying you'd slap yourself?
I would. I'd give myself a black eye. I could go back in time.
Take that.
Listen, girl.
She's got a mean right hook. Trust me.
Well, guys, as we wrap up here, the majority of our audience is male listeners, right? Obviously, we do have some women. I've gotten some iTunes reviews from some women, so I know we have some women listeners. I would really love to hear, Seth, your perspective and maybe some final advice for men. And then Melanie, I would love to hear your side of this as well. Like, what advice would you give our men?
Yeah, that's a great closer and great question too. I think because I also do coaching and counseling too, and with the dudes that I talk with, I'm like, you know what? Something that you don't even know is possible by way of healthy relationships, personal fulfillment of your own self, and with your spouse, with your girlfriend, with your partner. It is there if you're willing to let go of some of this other BS that you've learned, right? And it is okay to reach out. It is okay to get counseling, It is okay to talk to other dudes about stuff, It's like, I would much rather have help moving an apartment, than do it by myself, right? And our emotional stuff is that way too. But so I would encourage guys like, listen, bro, you are so much stronger than you think. And you need other people more than you think as well. That's one parting thought that I would tell myself, 5 years ago, 1 year ago.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I think for men, I would say, look at your wife like a teammate. The origin of the word collaborate is to co-labor. Like, you work together. You're building a team together. And so I would really encourage you, don't keep your feelings and thoughts away from your wife because you want to spare her something or you think she doesn't care. Think of it like a teammate. Like the Seattle Seahawks talk about every throw that they do, every play, they practice them. They practice things that aren't even actually going on so that when it's really happening, they can do it really well. And that's the way that I would love for men to approach marriage, is this collaborative, co-laboring teamwork idea where when you can get your wife jazzed up in that way and she can see that because I think a lot of women look at their husbands as being really strong, really like powerful, but women, you are strong and powerful. And men, if you can get and harness that strength and power out of your wife, y'all are unstoppable together.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I wish men knew and kind of tapped into, because it's an amazing feeling when you get there. I mean, no porn is going to stand up to that experience, but it takes work.
Yeah. Another thing, it takes work. It's not easy. It takes work every single day. Yeah. Again, Pressfield talks about the resistance. It's always there. It's always there, men. And you have to wake up every day with a mindset of like, okay, I'm going to kick this resistance ass right now, right today.
Resist us.
Yeah. And you got to do that every day.
Man.
You sound like Batman.
Right.
Resistance. I seriously, man. I can't even think. Oh, Siri thinks I'm talking to her. That's so funny. My phone just went like, what can I do? No. So Seth, dude, that apartment analogy was gold, because number one, I think any human being on the face of the earth, we like loathe moving. Right. And I couldn't imagine, moving an entire apartment all by myself. And so that really hit that home. It's like, why would I wouldn't do that by myself. So why am I going to do this by myself? So that really helped it. And then, so Melanie, thing that really hit home was the team aspect, the co-labor. And I love how you make it a sports analogy about like, hey, we're going to talk about every play. We're going to plan things. We're going to, if we're not talking, we're probably not going to play this game very, very well. Right. So that is like super helpful. So thank you both, by the way. You guys are awesome, man.
Thanks, man.
Seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we got a Wahlberg brother right there. we have tatted up Irish Native American. No, I'm kidding on that one. But no, seriously, like you guys are like a power couple, man. You guys give off such tremendous, amazing energy. And you come from the school of hard knocks. You know, you're not like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. You're like, no, we've been in your shoes. We understand. And that's why we really understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everybody knows how to find you guys, your amazing podcast, your amazing app, your website, and where can people just go connect?
Yeah. So, basic website, anatomyofmarriage.com. You can find all the stuff there. Instagram, anatomyofmarriage.com. YouTube, we do a daily AOM radio show that you guys can catch. And Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I have an Instagram at Seth Studley. And then why don't you talk about the app?
And the app is just the Anatomy of Marriage app. You can get it in the App Store or Google Play. And we teach in the app. It is our heart for couples turned into a quick and easy tool. It's not boring. That's part of our whole thing was like when we were going through all of our troubles, we were looking for resources. Everything was boring. Everything was like, oh, I don't want to read this book at all. So we made the opposite of that. It's quick. It's helpful. It has tools. It has sexy bedroom games. It's got conversation starters. It has everything. It has Battle Strip. So it's got it all. So go to
Wait, hang on.
You heard me. You heard me.
You lost me at Battle Strip. What's Battle Strip? Come on.
You know the game Battleship. You sink someone's ship. Well, Battle Strip. You pick out your clothes. That's how you start. You pick your clothes you're going to wear. You put them on, and then you play Battle Strip, and you sink your partner's clothes.
Yeah.
And one of the funnest parts is if you sink their underwear and their pants are on, they have to take their underwear and put their pants back on.
Right.
It's funny. Yes, and it's great.
Yeah, it's a real way to spice it up.
Are you going to cancel your wife's girl date right now? You're going, honey, you got to come back home.
I'm downloading this app as we speak.
Right.
There you go.
Kidding.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's a great tool. We have, again, like the clearing structure is a tool in our app to help couples not fight, to get through their conflicts, because that is the stuff we needed when we were in the hardest parts of our marriage. So again, you can get it in the App Store, Google Play, all that jazz.
Yeah. And one thing, we recently started coaching. So if you guys are interested in coaching, and I was not going to mention that, but I was like, you know what? We all have our own niche. And I find that even with coaching clients and therapy clients, obviously there's other therapists out there, but I strive to attract clients to me who we could work together well.
Who are coachable, like you mentioned.
So like, I got the perfect, you know what I'm saying? So it's not a competition. It's not anything like that, but
But yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. There needs to be more. I mean, look at the divorce rate, right?
Right.
And I don't know if you guys know these statistics or not, but they were mentioned in Miracle Morning for Couples. Lance and Brandy Salazar. I don't know if you guys know who they are, but so 50% divorce rate. In that book, they mention the remaining 50% that stay together. 30% of those people, I feel like Anchorman when I say this stuff, 60% of the time works every time. But no, so 1/3 of that 50% can actually rate their marriage as excellent.
Mhm.
Another 1/3 is, it's okay. I don't want to break up, but wonder if there's anything better. Right.
Yeah.
And then the final 1/3 of the people that stay together, they're miserable. And they only stay together because of usually something to do with the kids or something to do with finances.
Right.
But completely in two different worlds. They don't even, there's no intimacy, hardly any communication. They're just sort of, but isn't that crazy? I mean, it's like, what is it? I'm not a math person, but it's like, what is that? Like maybe 10% of marriages, the people that get married are like, wow, this is like everything I ever wanted.
Yeah. Right. And I'll guarantee you that every single person did not think, I'll get married and end up like this. Right.
Right.
But things happen. People get lazy. People get discouraged. And that's why we need help. That's why we need podcasts like yours or the kind of stuff that we do. We need more resources just to get into the hands of people because people are starving for this stuff. You know, it's like, I just wish I, knew what to do. Right. And the emails that we get, it's just, man, people can have more. And we want to encourage people to have more, to have that growth mindset because we were there. We didn't have anything. We had a crappy marriage, but now we're here. And trust me, being here is 1,000 times better than where we were.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I've got your app downloaded.
Awesome.
I'm telling Jessica we're playing Battle Strip.
Hey.
There you go.
Get them sexy conversation starters out. You can start texting her right now.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, I want to invite you guys to come back.
I love it.
At some point, because like what I want to do is I want to get into this app and I want to start using the conflict resolution. I want to get into some of the other resources in here. And I'd love to actually just maybe we also do another show every week called Thursday Throwdown. It's more of a shorter show, kind of right to the point. So maybe we have you on a Thursday Throwdown. You can talk about just other aspects of the app and how we can improve our lives, just even with these devices that sometimes usually separate us.
That was one of the goals. That would be amazing. We'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be an honor.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely love to come back on. So it's been a blast, man.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Later.
Bye.